These two chairs were once part of my mother-in-law's dining set. A few months ago, I gave half the table and two chairs a makeover in another video, and today I'm finally ready to transform the rest. These last two pieces have been sitting quietly waiting for their next chapter, and I think I've found the perfect one. I'm turning them into a French-inspired bench. Something elegant, timeless, and full of heart. This isn't just a DIY project. It's a way to carry on her memory into a new space and give these well-loved pieces new life. I hope this inspires you to create something truly meaningful. Let's get started. The memories in these chairs have created some wear and tear that will need to be repaired before we can get started. But let me show you what my plan is. I'm going to take the two chairs. I am going to remove the seats and the front legs and then take 1x3 to connect them back together to make that bench shape. That'll create our seat. Then I'll take 1x2s that will create a T formation to brace it on the bottom that will recreate the same T formation that was on the original chair. Then we'll take a piece of plywood covered in fabric and that will be our seat cushion. So the first step to this process is going to be taking these chairs apart. Normally we clean first, but since we are taking this apart, we're going to have to manhandle it a little bit and use some power tools and whatnot. Well, most of it would probably be done with a hammer. We're going to take this apart first since we're only saving this back part. So we're going to take it apart and then we're going to clean it. And then we can assemble the bench and then paint it. Usually there are, a few screws in the bottom that you can take out. Oh, here's a date. Sorry, March 2nd, 1970. This was built. At least the chairs were built then. Not really sure when probably about the same time. Like I said, this was my mother-in-law's table. Woo, there we go. All right. Now how we've got these brackets here. How am I going to get them out? Let's see. I'm going to try a couple different things. Now, some of them's already kind of coming out. No wonder why they're kind of rickety. The supports aren't even in there anymore. So, we're kind of coming apart here. So hopefully it comes apart pretty easy. So I started prying with a chisel and some other different tools. And well, it's held together a little harder, little stronger than what I thought it was going to be. I thought it would fall apart much easier than it actually was. But after some time of trying to gently take it apart, I decided to grab a hammer and just bang away at it and get out my frustration. And it finally let loose and started to come apart. Okay, that was a little harder than what I thought it was going to be. We made quite a mess. So let's clean up this mess and then we'll clean it and glue any pieces together. There were some areas that the seat was already kind of coming apart, as well as, these sections were very loose. So we'll fix those, clean it up, and then we can start building the base for the seat. Yeah, I think that's what it's called, or frame. There we go, frame for the bench seat. All right, by the time I got the chairs all taken apart, it was kind of time to pack it in. I got a really late start yesterday. There's a lot of planning to do beforehand, trying to figure out which stuff I was going to do first and all the design process. Well, it works out anyways because it's about 8:30 in the morning and we're going to go ahead and take our wood outside. I'm going to sand it and I'm going to prime it first, then make all my cuts, and then we could assemble it inside. So hopefully I get all that done before it gets way too hot in this summer heat. Let's go. So we first need to sand everything down. We're just knocking down any rough spots or splinters or whatnot that might be, lifting up on the wood. Then we're going to apply 2 coats of bin shellac based primer. This will sand nice and smooth and dry really smooth, but it also blocks in all the tannins so that we don't get any of those knots bleeding through. From there, we're going to go ahead and clean off the backs of those chairs. We're going to take some white lightning and spray them down with the cleaner, scrub away, and then rinse after. This allows that paint to adhere nice and properly. Well, you know what I said about the heat? Well, the camera kept overheating, so there's some shots in here that I just couldn't get. So I did apply a coat of primer to the backs of those chairs, and you have to be careful not to get on any of those drips, and it's not getting a whole lot of rough spots. So we are going to be sanding in between each one of those coats to make sure that we're smoothing everything out really nicely. After that, we can then start building the base. I measured between where I wanted the backs of each of the chairs to be, and that is the length of each board. And then we're also battling a little summer shower, so forgive that as well. So now we go ahead and add pocket screws to the ends of each one of those boards that I just cut. That will be the braces for the base of the seat, so that we can fasten them to the backs of the chairs, and put another coat of primer on and sand it again. Then I took my T-square and I'm just lining up exactly where, I'm sorry, it's speed square. I don't know what you call that. No, it's a speed square. That's what that is. I wanted to line up exactly where the side braces are going to be with the back braces, so that it looks like a continuous piece, like it was supposed to be there all along. Now for the bottom T braces, instead of using pocket holes, I inserted the screws. So now we have to go through and fill all of the holes. So we had the holes from where the previous braces from the chairs were, and trying to get it apart, as well as, the drips and the ridges and the rough spots that we still have to clean up before we paint. But first, let's get our Bondo and fill in all those holes, and then we can sand again. I like using Bondo because it dries really fast, it dries hard, and it doesn't shrink inside of larger holes especially. So you don't have to apply it 3 and 4 times. After that, we'll go ahead and touch up with some more primer to get ready for paint. Okay, now it's time for paint. And I am using my sprayer because with chairs, they're almost impossible to not get ridges or drips in places that you don't want to when you're doing it with a brush. It can be done, but it's a lot harder. So since this is essentially 2 chairs, right, we're going to go ahead and use my sprayer. And if you would like to know how to use this sprayer, I have a detailed video on how to use this particular sprayer. It's the Wagner Flexio 5000, and it has done phenomenal for me. I've done a couple kitchens. I've done several pieces. I mean, too many to even count. And this sucker has worked phenomenal for me. So it's a great starter sprayer, as well as, it's been pretty good workhorse as well. Back to the project. As you can see, it's going to be pink. I did my little sample pass here, and I went back and forth with which color to use, whether I wanted to bring in more of that corally color that's in the mural, or if I wanted to go with the hot pink. There's already a lot of hot pink in there. I wanted the hot pink to be like, surprise accents, but I realized, you know what? We're going to bring in that orange with, and some more teal with pillows. And we're also starting this upside down. The best way to spray a chair is to start on the underside, flip it, and then do the upper side. Probably will be covered in 1 coat, but I always do that 2nd coat just to make sure we touch up any spots we may have missed. There is nothing like that first pass of paint over top of the primer. It's so beautiful. I did all the underneath side, and then we're going to go ahead and flip it upright and raising it up with some 2x4s underneath each leg. And as you can see, there are a few spots after it's dried that you can see where it didn't fully cover. Especially on a chair, you don't have that, large flat surface to make sure you're getting everywhere. So that's why a 2nd coat is always, always, always recommended. After that coat is done, we're going to put 2 coats of gator hide on as well. So now let's get prepared to make the cushion. So now that we've sprayed 2 coats of gator hide on the bench, I brought it inside and I'm gonna let it dry for about a day or so. I like to sand between the second and third coat. So I wanted to give it some time to dry. It was extremely humid outside. While we're waiting for that to dry, I'm gonna start sewing the cushion. Now, I sew a lot, or I used to sew a lot, I should say. But I never really did upholstery, and any time that I did do upholstery, I didn't do it very well. I looked at a really great tutorial that gave me some great tips. So I'm going to link that tutorial in the description below. And so instead of me trying to duplicate what this person's already done, I'm just going to put that in the link in the description. And we're going to get sewing this cushion. So this will be the fabric because it has our pink, like that's in the chair. And then it's got these orangey corally tones, like that's in the buffet and the mural on the other side of the room. And it was bold and beautiful, like I like it. So I found this at Hobby Lobby. It was like $25 with 30% off. So I got about I got 2 yards to make sure that I had enough to actually make the cushion and make the cover, the bench, the plywood part, which that'll be coming next. Well, this old girl is working pretty good still. This was a gift when I graduated college. We won't talk about how many years ago that was. Whew, it's been around a minute, but she's still humming pretty good. I'm very thankful for that, but I don't know. She's looking a little dingy. Maybe she needs a paint makeover too. I don't know. Maybe one day. So if you went over and watched the tutorial on how to make the cushion, one thing I'm not doing is I'm not doing the top stitching where he makes like a faux piping around the edge. I'm going to do something a little different, as well as I'm not going to deal with a zipper. I'm just going to hand stitch this up so that it's just, if it gets dirty, this is just an occasional little seat. So if it gets dirty, I'll just spot clean it and I'll be good to go. So we're not going to put in a zipper, and I have something fun that I hope that I can pull off with the edges. So let me go ahead and put the foam inside and we'll go from there. So what I did for the foam on here is, since foam can get kind of pricey for the length that I needed, what I did is I picked up an inexpensive foam mattress topper, the egg crate kind, and the width was, it's a twin size, so the width was of the mattress topper was almost the length that I needed for the cushion. So then all I had to do was cut the depth pieces. So it's 4 pieces together, and then I've wrapped batting around it to because with upholstery you always wrap batting around your foam part so that you don't see the harsh edges of the foam. So let's hope it all fits, right? Let's hope I did all my measurements correctly and it's gonna fit in there just fine. Yeah, that's perfect. So I'm going to hand sew this shut, and then I'll show you how I'm going to do the next section. Again, I haven't done that before either, but I think it's going to look pretty cool. But first, let's go ahead and cover that bench cushion. So I have the plywood cut to the right size, and then I'm just adding the batting and then stapling the fabric up and around it. I made sure I had enough fabric to wrap up and around to the back side and staple it properly. The corners get a little tricky, but I wasn't worried about it being too perfect. So on the edges of the cushion, I'm doing what is called a French tuck. I'm taking a rounded needle, I guess you could say. And I am poking it in in between every inch and a half. And you go through the side all the way up to the front, and then you poke the needle back through almost in the same spot, and then you pull the threads really tight and tie them off. It was excruciating, but I think it came out beautiful in the end. So I repeated this around both the top and the bottom edges all the way around the entire cushion. I also added what's called tucks inside the flat side of the cushion as well, with the same exact process, except I used a straight needle instead of that curved needle when doing the tucks. I could have done a covered button, but it just looked better with the tucks rather than the buttons that I had purchased. Now that we have the plywood covered for the seat, we'll go ahead and put that into place. In all honesty, it could stay just like this without a cushion. It'd be a little hard and a little stiff, but you could keep it this way if you wanted to. But I think the cushion came out extra special and just added that extra French touch as well. Now let me tell you, my fingers are gonna take some time to heal. I should have found some sort of, I know there's like leather thimbles you can get when doing a lot of hand sewing, because what you're doing is putting that thread through and then you have to tie it off, and oh my word, my fingers are so incredibly sore, but I think it was worth it. What do you think? Think she's looking pretty cool. Now let's put her into place where it's going to sit in my office. Let's take a moment and go back where we started. These chairs were part of my late mother-in-law's dining set, and before that, her mother-in-law's. They've seen so many family memories gathered around the table, and after all those years, the wear was beginning to show. And now look at them. The graceful lines and vintage charm of these chairs made the perfect candidates for this French-inspired bench. It fits perfectly in our bay window, the coziest little spot to watch the sun come up over the trees on our property. I feel so blessed to have inherited them and to give them new life. I can already picture my grandkids lined up on this bench, looking out the window, waiting to see their granddaddy pull into the driveway. It's such a special way to carry on those family memories while creating new ones. The colors came together beautifully. The fabric ties in all of the colors in the space. The coral, the teal, and the fuchsia accents are throughout the entire office space. And the prickly pear was a perfect combination with the fabric. If you missed the makeover where I transformed half the dining set and 2 other chairs, you can go ahead and click the video right here. And if you love a good transformation, don't forget to subscribe. I have one more project coming before the final reveal of this office / workshop / studio space. Art studio? Yeah, it's all in one. So come on back so you don't miss the final reveal.